For as long as I can remember, at every Seder since I was a kid, when we reached the point in the Haggadah when we recite the plagues, everyone around the table would dip their little finger into a cup of wine, and with each drop, we would recite the plagues. Dam, Tzfardeya, Kinim, Arov, Dever, Shechin, Barad, Arbe, Choshech, Makat Bechorot. Blood, frogs, lice, flies, pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and the slaying of the firstborn. In the Torah, God instructed Moses to tell Pharaoh to free the Jews from slavery. To prove God's power to Pharaoh, Aaron, the brother of Moses, was told to hold the staff of Moses over the Nile so that the river and all the water in Egypt would turn to blood. Of course, Aaron did as he was commanded. He stretched out the staff over the Nile, and the river turned to blood, killing all of the fish and all of the animals in it. It's strange, however, that Moses, the greatest prophet of all, and the one chosen by God to lead our ancestors out of Egypt, was not the one performing the miracle that initiated the plagues. It was Aaron. The Midrash Tanchuma recognized this and asked the question, why was it Aaron and not Moses who turned the water to blood? According to the Tanchuma, the reason was because the river had protected Moses when he was a baby. You may remember that when Moses was an infant, Pharaoh had decreed the death of all firstborn Jewish male children. To save his life, his parents put baby Moses into a basket and set it adrift on the Nile to keep him from being murdered. Because of this, Moses felt it would be wrong for him to smite the water with a plague. Another interesting part of the story, according to the Midrash, is that each of the plagues lasted for 7 days, except the plague of blood. Most of the plagues ended when Moses entreated God to end it. With the plague of blood, however, the Torah merely says that after 7 days, God told Moses to go to Pharaoh and say, "Let my people go." In other words, there was no clear end to the plague of blood. It could be said that this plague is plaguing us still today. Every year in Taiji, Japan, and the Faroe Islands, the water runs red with the blood of dolphins and whales. In Taiji, dolphins are slaughtered to provide meat for school lunches, and others are captured and sold to aquariums around the world to live their lives in captivity, performing tricks for tourists on vacation. In the Faroe Islands, hundreds and hundreds of pilot whales are slaughtered every year in a festival they call the grind. Now, many people who care less for the marine environment than anyone listening to this might say, "Hey, I don't live in Japan or the Faroe Islands, so I'm not responsible." But not everything that is red in the water is blood. Plastic pollution is one of the greatest plagues facing our planet. It kills sea life and contaminates the water. It's found everywhere on Earth, in every ocean, in every river, and throughout the entire marine food web. If you eat anything that comes from the water, the sad reality is that you are ingesting plastic and all of the chemicals in it. According to the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, 500 pounds of plastic enters the ocean every second, and none of us can claim innocence. We are all guilty of contributing to the plague of plastic, which is killing marine life and killing the ocean. The problem with Pharaoh was that when the Nile turned to blood, it didn't faze him. He hardened his heart, which led to the next plague, and the next, and the next, until ultimately it led to his downfall. In the Jewish community, we seem to think that protecting the environment is the responsibility of others, and the marine environment isn't even on our radar. We have more important issues on which to focus our energies. Well, like Pharaoh, we have hardened our collective hearts. It's time for us to recognize that protecting and preserving the environment is a Jewish value. Psalm 24 says, Ladonai haaretz umeloah tevel v'yoshveva. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and everything in it. And while the earth belongs to God, we humans are its stewards, and we have not done a very good job of it. We can no longer afford to be like Pharaoh. We must be like Moses. As Jews, we need to do our part to ensure that we bring about an end to the plague of blood. We need to accept our role as stewards of God's world, as caretakers for those that live in the ocean and custodians of the marine environment. Moses knew that he owed a debt to the water, and whether we recognize it or not, we owe that same debt.